But yeah, let's go through some of these next ones. This next thing coming up, I'm incredibly anticipating this game. So Cyberpunk, we had the Night City Wire come out last Monday here, and so there was some news revealed, and I'll kind of pick through some of the overview from GameSpot, and then we'll dig into it. But we have Cyberpunk 2077. Which life path is right for you? This is of GameSpot. Jacob Decker has the article. The world of Cyberpunk 2077 reacts based on your choices. The first of these is one of the most important, as it determines where your character starts and how the world will react to them, their life path. You'll have 3 options to choose from for your life path: Street Kid, Nomad, and Corporate. The one you select will impact how you move through Night City, as you'll encounter different characters, story beats, conversations, depending on your origin. The life paths follow you into the main quest and beyond as well. CD Projekt Red has said that each origin will determine which characters you meet and your relationships with them, and though some will appear across life paths, their disposition towards you will differ. Jackie Wells, your in-game companion, is an acquaintance regardless of which you choose, but your relationship with will vary as each origin gives you the two of a different history. Another big focus of episode 2 of Night City Wire was to showcase the different weapons you can acquire in the game. In a segment called Tools of Destruction, we got to see some of the newest weapons divided into numerous categories. These categories are power, tech, smart, melee, and cyberware varieties. While we did get to see some familiar favorites once again, such as the Mantis Blade's cyberware upgrade, we also got to see more of what's to come in Cyberpunk 2077. I imagine this is on your radar. How do you feel about Cyberpunk 27? Are you stoked for it? Are you kind of lackluster?
I'm super duper stoked for it. Like I like the second Night City Wire event because now we get to see these life paths. I mean, before I had ideas, but they've released with this new gameplay rather, I got more excited. Like I like how CD Projekt Red schedules their Night City Wire events and how prepared they are to explain things to people. And also, so I was thinking among the 3 life paths, and I was thinking of playing as the Nomad because of the Mad Max Outcast style. So it's kind of cool. But then again, I'm also thinking of starting off with a Corpo. So Cyberpunk 2077 is definitely a game where it should be played multiple times because, like what you just said, depending on your life path, there will be different conversations that can be unlocked. Some will be available for the Street Kid, for the Nomad, or the Corpo, and it largely depends on your initial choice. So I'm definitely looking forward to that choice-based RPG aspect. And together with what they just released, the Tools of Destruction, because I've always wondered how the crafting system will work. I do hope that they will discuss that in the future, though, since they're already tapping into the different types of weapons.
Yeah, that's one thing that stuck out to me as well, is all the different customization you can do with the weapons. It seems like you can tailor it to the experience you want. I would love if, and maybe that's possible, but they have the different kind of categories with the weapons. If you can modify where you can pull from different weapons, different categories, and create this one weapon that has a little bit of the power, the tech, the smart, like it has it all kind of encompassed in one weapon. But even if they don't do that, I'm still fully satisfied with what they're showing. But yeah, you mentioned the Nomad is kind of what you're looking to first. I love that same aspect of it, to that Mad Max style, and it seemed like they showed off more of the vehicle mechanics with the Nomad. Like I wonder if that's how you start the game, and that's more the focus, is having that vehicle versus, like, say, the Street Kid, if that's something that's further past in the actual storyline. I wonder how they're changing things up in that regard, or like they say the vehicle is unlocked or like close to get right from the get-go, depending on your lifestyle. Yeah, with especially that vehicle stuff, I'm really excited to see how they do that, because it's like full-blown vehicle combat you can drive around. I didn't expect them to fully flesh that out. I mean, I was just seeing early on they just showed the city, and I was fully fine with them just kind of digging into that part of it. But the fact that they're giving you just full range to drive around is insane. Although I did worry with the vehicle stuff. This game is so pretty. I'm wondering how much is going to bog down like the frame rates and the performance level. So if you're driving through the city at a fast pace, I wonder if that always scared me. It's like, I'd rather just walk around and give the world time to like load around me. But I guess that they're confident with giving you full range to just drive and see anything at all times.
Yeah. I'm hoping that they'll be able to pull off those frame rate issues. I was just remembering what you said about the vehicles, because from their last Night City Wire event, the devs mentioned that, if I remember correctly, you will own a vehicle together with your apartment.
Gotcha.
So I'm assuming that maybe for the Nomad life path, you will have it when you go to Night City, or a couple of beginner levels rather. So I'm not sure
Gotcha.
with a kid though. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still, some stuff up in the air, and that's what you mentioned before. Like they've really done a great job of giving you these updates with what they're doing, going forward, and they're highly produced and they're keeping us in the loop, which I think is a great way to do it because we're in the dark for so long, and now that they have a plan and how to execute, they can show us these chunks of knowledge, going into this release, which only hypes it up more. Like I've seen this Night City Wire 2. I was already stoked for the last one, but like these little updates just make me even more and more excited for it. I know there was issues with, I think, the last Night City Wire. They showed off some of the, it was just in cutscenes, but they showed off some of the melee mechanics, and there was some criticism with like kind of how they felt choppy or just not there. Did you see any of that? Did you feel that way at all?
I didn't feel that way at all. Maybe because I'm not super particular when it comes to. I'm not yet there. I mean, I'm not super particular when it comes to the melee combat, but I did hear like from other content creators based on their review from the demo last a few months back is they're kind of complaining with the especially using the thermal katana, like it's
Hmm.
not as fluid as you would expect. So I'm not sure how they will further enhance that feature, if there will be additional demo to make it better.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I understand the same thing. I do like that they're willing to cut stuff because I know it was maybe a couple weeks ago they announced originally in that first launch trailer they were showing verticality and how you can kind of jump around and hide in corners and then jump out. And I guess that they're cutting that aspect of it.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
just at the moment to kind of get the game, out as soon as possible or polished as possible. I like that they're willing to make those hard decisions, and it wasn't the end of the world for me to lose that ability because there's just so much else in the world to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think you were referring to the mantis blades where you can just run across the walls
Right. It
using
was
that,
wall running.
yeah, the wall running mechanic. But I do
Yeah.
hope, in relation to what you said about removing features, I do hope they bring back the subway mechanic where you can just sit there and observe the people around you. Maybe perhaps in a future DLC, because they removed it due to it not fitting in the current development of the base game. So I'm hoping to see that still in future releases.
Yeah, that's true. That just another thing that fully immerses you in that world if you can sit in the subway and see all the weirdos with all their, upgrades and stuff and just kind of feel like you live there. It's not quite the same thing, but that reminded me of Spider-Man on PS4. Their fast travel system was you get in the subway, but it was always Spider-Man, hanging out with regular people, like reading the magazine. I always loved that little, just like time you could watch him just be a normal person, interacting with the NPCs, and then you're off into the next part of the world. But I always liked that little, just not an Easter egg. It was just like it felt more real seeing him just on some downtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now with you're a huge nerd for lore. So with Cyberpunk, does that entire world entice you? Are you familiar with like the because this is based on I want to say a book or another kind of media that they're pulling from. So are you invested in that as well?
Uh not as much as in Baldur's Gate 3, but I do know that they're basing it off of the tabletop Cyberpunk 2020, which is also a book. But I think I'll read into that a month before Cyberpunk 2077 comes out because I'm particularly interested in the dystopian genre, like a Black Mirror, for example, or
Mm.
what I'm reading at the moment is do wait, I forgot the title. Let me see.
And that's like a dystopian or sci-fi kind of thing as well.
It is. It's it's way. Oh, there we go. Do Electric Sheep Dream? Wait, no.
Oh,
Do
I've
Act
heard of this.
of Electric Sheep. I'm sorry. So
Right.
yeah, it's where Blade Runner is based off of.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's Philip K. Dick, who's that well-known sci-fi writer. I know that's one of his stories. I've never read it, but I know that's one of his as well.
It gives so much context to what I thought was lacking in the first movie. So there's so much more to it than just the replicants and Deckard chasing after those. There's so much more underlying meaning and thought to it. So yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm also excited to see how different Cyberpunk 2077 will be from. Uh, there was these. Wait, let me just check.
Oh, was there another kind of recently that was similar or kind of touch on the same stuff?
It wasn't released recently. It was. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this one. It was developed by Square Enix. It's in the tip
Oh,
of
it's
my
Deus Ex.
So there we go. Yes, I'm also planning to play that probably next month, just so I can see what or how different Cyberpunk is from that game. Because I do understand that it was well received by a lot of folks, and there were so many like attention to detail in terms of, for example, the buildings, being able to go in each of the buildings, and then having a ton of options as to how you can complete certain objectives. So I'm definitely curious to see how different Cyberpunk is from that game.
You know, that's a good comparison. My buddy Gavin was actually playing through one of the recent ones. I forget which is it. It's Deus Ex something Mankind. One of the recent ones that had released, and he was also same thing. He wanted to kind of get a feel for a comparison rather for going into Cyberpunk, and that's one that I've tried. I've jumped in on PS4. I forget the name of the recent one that I actually tried, and I
And
found the Yes, yep, you're right. And I found it just kind of didn't latch on to me as much as I wish it did. Something about the mechanics, the movements, the just the way you actually proceed through the levels. Found that it just kind of turned me off. But he really loved it, so I kind of want to get over that hump issue that I had and actually try it and see, what they do well and what Cyberpunk will maybe innovate on. And I'd seem to just whatever Cyberpunk is doing just calls out to me more. Give I guess the freedom, the ability to kind of choose how you tackle the world. I guess because it's just more brutal and just dark. I guess I kind of gravitate towards that as well. And the way I love the whole corporate aspect of it too. How they're just kind of maybe calling attention to stuff in real life. How there's just like this twisted aspect of corporations, and if they're given free realm to just kind of do weird stuff, they're going to do that. And I love how they're commenting on that. And also just like the dystopian aspect of the city and people at the bottom. And yeah, no, everything that Cyberpunk's doing, it's just I want to just put it right into my veins and just live in that world.
who knows? I mean, maybe a few years from now, we will probably have cyberware available. I hope so.
It's there's people that will, it's a whole like other aspect, but like there's people that there's like body modifications. People will put various chips in their body, but I've seen like stuff that like even very rudimentary stuff where it's like metals that will vibrate. So when you're close to your phone or your door, like it'll vibrate or it will unlock stuff for you. There's people that are now trying that, but it's like we're still in the dark ages when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I will be the first adopter. I'll make sure they work out the kinks and the bugs, and then maybe I'll put the chip in my head. But
Before you jump in.
right, that's one thing I dug about. You mentioned Black Mirror. They have, I think it's one of the early seasons. They have the like either lenses or they're like replacement for your eyes, and you just have basically your phone in your eyes, and the other aspects and issues that brings up with just like personal stuff and social stuff. It's like it's a whole can of worms. But I love how they are also picking at the future and kind of inevitably where we're going too.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that episode. I think it's the first episode that I've seen, and it was just so horrific. I love the commentary in each of the episodes, and I do hope it picks up because, from what I understand, they're still planning to continue the series. It's just that now they're on a hiatus. I mean, the latest seasons weren't as good as the original ones. So I'm hoping they delve back into that darkness again.
I agree with that. And I had a hesitation when they announced that Netflix picked it up because I liked how it was just like I got this British vibe to it. I liked how it was in those first seasons, and I feel like with Netflix taking it over, do they just kind of change it or make it not as what it used to be, or maybe feel hesitation to jump into some of the issues they jumped into? But Yeah, so but overall, I dug it. It's definitely not the with that show. I have to do it in spurts because it's not the happiest show to watch. Like you definitely don't feel any better about
True.
yourself or the future, but it's kind of a bummer. But I do, I really dig that. And I was a fan growing up of like the Twilight Zone. I loved how the Twilight Zone wasn't afraid to not end it on a happy note. They were often dark, like super dark, and so I just love that aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
Nice. So we're highly anticipated Cyberpunk. Do you think that with this was also kind of combined in the news with Halo Infinite being delayed? Do you think it's possible we see Cyberpunk slip as well, or do you think they're kind of on point to release this November?
Oh my gosh. Well, the hopeful kid inside of me is just pushing for them to release it this November because it's an ideal timeline, especially with Black Friday sales coming in and the new generation consoles coming in at roughly the same time period. But I'm hoping that they won't delay it any further because I don't think that will be good for their marketing, especially now that they're probably going to stretch Night City Wire events in order to meet that release date or to satisfy the hunger to play that game. So fingers
Right.
crossed that it releases in November.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's such a bummer when you do hear about these games slipping, but at the same time, you hope that okay, they're going to have more time to polish and work out stuff, and hopefully there isn't so many bugs going into these past couple months that it's not going to have them a reason for them to push it. I know there's the aspect of multiplayer they've announced, which is from the gate they said this is going to be a separate thing. We're going to work on this years later, or it's going to come in the next years after Cyberpunk launches. But that's also an extra aspect to this. How does it change when you can actually play with your buddies, and what kind of combat is that? What kind of gameplay is that? And do you keep your character, or are you building from the ground up? And I guess you could see the same lines from like Rockstar, how they handle their single player focused content, and then they drop the multiplayer, which is basically you're in that world but you create characters from the ground up. But yeah, I'm wondering how the multiplayer is going to change things.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm definitely excited for that one. I think with the multiplayer aspect, it will probably take about 2 more years maximum since they like what you've mentioned, it's going to completely change the gameplay and the social aspect, the interaction and everything with the NPCs and with your buddies. So but still looking forward to it, even if it's going to be released at a much later date.
Oh yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I wonder if because there's so many hurdles you have to complete with adding more players into a game. As far as just like graphically, is the game going to be able to handle 4 people now in your party or more than that? Do they have to scale things down? And my hesitation is just because it's such a beautiful world, and it seems like it's demanding of any console, any PC it's on. So what do they have to tweak to make sure that people can play with you, and it's not going to just like bring the frame rate and all the graphics to a screeching halt? Like, how are they going to balance that while keeping the fidelity at the level that it's at?
That's a very interesting point you raised because I remember back in The Witcher 3, they I think they ran into this controversy where people complained that the demo or the trailer they showed off in E3 wasn't the same as what the people got because they had to downgrade everything in order to comply with the requirements of the consoles. So I'm hoping we don't see that here since I'm assuming that their technology for Cyberpunk is much more improved at
Hmm.
this time around.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of that as well. But I mean, they're amazing over there at CD Projekt Red, so I fully believe they can achieve this. But it's yeah, can't wait for this game.